Whenever you want to start.
Okay, thank you. So welcome to the Recreation Commission meeting for August 11th, 2020. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of us attending, right? So we have a quorum plus some, which is great. All right, so we called to order. Our next item is consideration of minutes for previous meetings. I think we all got the minutes earlier from Peter. Everybody have a chance to take a look at those?
My first go around, and I was using Matthew's format, so any corrections or suggestions or things I missed, please point out.
No, it looked good to me. I didn't see anything.
I was fine with them also.
Yeah, it looked fine.
All right, so I'll make a motion to accept the meeting minutes from July 28th.
Second.
Okay, so and that second was from Andrew Ruggles. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Now, do we still need to do roll call votes on these, Steve?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so we'll start with you, Mr. Weber.
Aye.
Colleen?
I wasn't here, so I'll abstain, I guess. I wasn't at that last meeting.
Chris?
I'll abstain as well.
Andrew? Andy?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Steve?
Gannon, aye.
And Mike?
Aye.
And I will say aye, so that carries 5-0-2, with 2 abstaining. All right. Let's see. Next is public input. Do we have anybody calling in? I assume not. We probably see it somewhere.
No, there's no public online.
Okay. So we will close public input. Our next item 4 is facility and field requests. So we did receive that field request, the guiding eyes for the blind classes, Talent Hall. She included some information on that. Let's see. I had it open here just a minute ago. Let's see. All right, so here it is. Now, can we share in this?
Yes.
And how do we go about sharing? So
if you look at your toolbar at the bottom, all the icons, if you hover above the one that says share content, it'll ask you what you wish to share.
It's a third from the left.
Third from the left, yep. And then you can decide your screen, or you can pick the specific application.
All right, so I'm just sharing. Actually, no, I don't want to share that.
We can see it now.
All right, but I don't want to share the next. I'm going to open it up. You can only see the first page in that view. Can't open it in Google Docs, that's for sure.
If you have multiple screens, it's common not to just share one screen and drag in what you need everybody to see from the other. That's a common practice.
Is anybody able to open the Oh, actually, I can just download it. No.
I have it open if you want me to share it.
Well, that'd be great.
All right, there we go.
All right, so as you can see, looking for Talent Hall. It looks like they're looking for every other Sunday from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m.
Oh, I'm sorry, I got the grass volleyball.
Volleyball, yeah, that's the volleyball one.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Let me get to my box. Just had it open as well. All right, give me 1 second. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'll pull it up. When did that one come in? Oh, there it is. I get it. And let me find the document that she sent, because she also sent attachments.
Yeah.
I don't see the initial. There it is. It's not there.
I guess you only attach that first page, but it's maybe the separate scans.
Sandy, right?
Yeah.
So I see C3 from the that was scanned, but I don't see our. Did she send them all in one day?
I think it's the main one is just MUN scan. I think it's only the first page.
Oh, there we go. Yep. Okay. Let me go back to sharing. Nothing from the toolbar. All right, how do I get back to my sharing screen? It's not like I use this tool every day.
It's no Zoom, that's for sure.
I work for Cisco, and Cisco owns WebEx, so I literally use this tool every day. But I don't care for how it acts sometimes. It's not
Right
like
here,
it's
if you.
toolbar.
I'm sharing it now.
You got it, Andy? Cool.
Okay. So, yeah, and there are 2 pages to it. There's not much on the second page except for her information. So basically, they're looking for every 2 weeks on Sunday, from 12 to 3. As soon as the building is available, which we're going to probably need to discuss very soon as to opening up talent for when, a timeline and a process. And actually, that would be more of the purview for you guys, the Board of Selectmen, right, Steve?
Yeah, we'll take input from there also. I think our largest problem we have right now is would be the cleaning of the building.
Right.
I don't know, since we will be talking about budget, do we budget more money for cleaning, when we get to that point of it this evening?
So I think, so a couple things. Any thoughts on this before I jump in?
Not knowing our future and the use of the town hall come fall, it's kind of hard to say yes when we don't know if it's going to be used. We definitely don't want to using it in the summer because it's not air conditioning and
Right.
could be health hazards.
Well, and again, we're not going to be opening it any time in the the next couple of weeks anyway, I would imagine. Until, like Steve said, until we can have a process in place for cleaning and sanitizing it. But I guess,
Andy, I mean, can we just, do you think we can vote on this pending when it opens? I mean, is there anything that usually conflicts with 12 to 3 on Sundays in the fall? Is that basketball or anything like that?
well, no, not basketball. Basically, leaves Sundays alone because every other group uses it on Sunday. We got baseball, softball, and pickleball in there on Sundays. And baseball goes.
Historically, baseball had it till noon, and then I think pickleball used it up to 3, and then I believe softball came in after that.
Yeah, well, sometimes pickleball went to 3 or 4, and then softball is usually after that.
Yep.
From like usually 3 or 4 o'clock to 7 or 8 o'clock. So, and then we'd actually have some basketball teams that would practice on a Sunday night, like travel teams that couldn't get into LMS. So it's once, I would say, mid-November rolls around or early November, that's when that use really starts for everybody except for baseball. Baseball usually starts January 1st.
Usually the first weekend of January. Same with softball is usually a couple weeks after that.
Oh no, softball starts earlier than that.
Oh, do they? Because I always thought that. Well, I know last year they got mad at me because I took the time before them.
Yeah, softball is usually in there right around November.
They do pitcher catcher and
Yeah, as soon as it starts getting cold out, especially pitches and catches, you don't want to be out there in the cold throwing, too much.
Maybe it was the rec portion of softball because they were trying to get some spaces too.
Yeah. And then the younger blast, I think, too. This is usually the older blasts in there earlier.
So it sounds like, I mean, it's something we could do since baseball isn't starting until January 1st. I mean, they could theoretically use it in the morning.
Or, we could actually talk to pickleball, too, and say, but I don't know if they're going to want to do it and then have to stop it in January. But
Well, I mean, honestly, like it's nice that, baseball usually requests it or softball usually requests it, but this is pretty much just like everything else. Like they're requesting it first. If they requested around certain times and we have the availability, should we be granting it? And figuring out when the other groups come in, what times they want. Because even though you past 4 or 5 years, it's not like baseball always has one time or softball always has one time or pickleball always has one time. If we have to tell pickleball that, by the way, you're going to only be in there 2 Sundays each month instead of 4, well, pickleball has given us in the past said if you need it for something, then it is. We are giving rights to use it. So if we feel this is something we can grant access to town hall to, why are we trying to jump around all these other hoops? There is time. I mean, if it comes out of pickleball's grouping, then okay, then we can't satisfy everyone all the time, but we can try to satisfy a bunch of people.
I agree with what you're saying, Mike, but I would Andy usually has like these quarterly
Right.
softball, baseball. People don't request things until that window opens up that Andy says, okay, send me your requests. So I know here we're saying the guiding dog training is requesting before these other groups, but these other groups are just there's been a process where these other groups wait to
Right. And we
request.
and if we do it for just this quarter, then we do it for just this quarter, and we tell them this is the process. We do it quarterly. Then we get to next quarter, see what happens, and then the quarter after, and see what happens. I mean, we're trying to jump down the path of the road. Like, you know, what I mean, I got the reminder for the quarterly meeting last week. So, you know, what I mean, we're past. I mean, usually in the normal schedule of things, we're already looking at, you know,
That meeting was for the fall. There's another one
Right.
in October.
right. Oh, I know. Then that's what I'm saying. Now, mind you, that's an entirely different discussion. The other discussion with this is besides the normal, you know, if we grant access, we still need proof of insurance
Yep.
and all those regulars, the standard stuff. The next question is what do we think about dogs in talent on the floor, and what sort of possible damage does that cause to that floor?
That's a good point. I mean, the only other thing I'm thinking too is, you know, I'm thinking of the Democratic group that wanted to come in and use it. And, you know, our premise was, you know, basically, you know, our hierarchy is, you know, recreational use first, and, you know, so on down the line. You know, this would be, you know, community service, which is good. It's not quite, it's probably in that order, but I don't know. I think, like you said, we need to look at insurance, make sure that they have insurance, talk to her about the possibility of, you know, what about damage? You know, if these are puppies, they're probably not going to do much damage. I would imagine that they're completely under the control of the people that are training them.
Landy, I'm just thinking a clause on the floor, like is like nothing. No other. I'm not even looking at other. What else might happen? But clause on that floor means you're going to scratch the floor up, which we already have a problem with that floor not being able to redo it right now or anything. And if it's done over, now you're scratching it again.
Yeah.
Is that becoming a bigger maintenance issue after a little bit too?
So let me just back up a little bit. I definitely agree that there may be an issue with the dogs, but I'm still stuck on, you know, is town hall going to be open at all? And, you know, do we want to really forecast which clubs we think may be in there? I mean, it's certainly an open question if any of those sports clubs are going to be active in their upcoming seasons, and if talent would be open to them. And even if the, you know, guidelines change, I think the cleaning question is an excellent one. If we have multiple groups in there in the course of a day, or is it our liability to have that cleaned? And I worry about all that. So I'm more on the page of town hall is shut, then it is shut, and we just ask people to resubmit once we announce that town hall is back open again. But for the time being, I'd hate to keep these people kind of hanging in the balance, you know, waiting for the opening. I'd rather just maybe make it clean cut and say town hall is not open to the public for the foreseeable future, and we will make an announcement when it is.
I would agree with that statement.
Yeah, that sounds fair.
Well, I agree with that statement entirely. I mean, I know Stephen brought up, like, you know, looking at putting a budget, something in the budget for cleaning, but we're talking about the budget for next year. We're not talking about this year's budget, where realistically we don't have money. How much money do we have for cleaning in our budget now? Not enough to start handling even a daily cleaning, let alone if there are multiple organizations, and do we have to get in there between each one, or who's responsible for getting in there between each one?
Yeah.
Does anybody know how other towns are handling it?
No.
I don't know.
I mean, right now you can't get into schools. You know, the schools are trying to get themselves open. But, you know, and you'll notice that the reason that they're coming to us is because they can't get into the church that they normally use.
So if that's the case, I'm of the same mindset that, you know, if these other public buildings aren't opening, then I don't think it's necessary that we need to bend backwards for people, other groups to come in and you know, and run the risk of having some sort of contamination, extra cleaning, and some sort of issue down the road until things are settled down.
All right, so I'll just reply to her and say, until we've decided when and how town hall is going to be open, we're not going to be voting on any. We really can't make a decision until we know when it's going to be open and you know how often it can be open. If you know, we might need to have an hour or 2 hours in between groups in order to do a cleaning or have some procedure in place. So.
And to answer Mike's question, the approved budget for cleaning for 2020 was $3,750, which is 5 hours per week.
I think we're gonna have enough to clean talent.
All right, and you had the other request?
Yeah, we had a request from the volleyball people, Wootown
Yeah.
Volleyball, I believe. It's a for-profit volleyball association based out of Billerica or something like that, Mass.
Yep.
I can pull that one up. Hold on.
That was a 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. like every Sunday.
Yeah.
And
All day, every
it's
Sunday.
for profit. The percentage of people from town was between 1 and 49%. So your options is 0, 1 to 49%, 50 and above. So maybe 1 or 2 people from town.
Yeah.
To me, this one would be an automatic denial for several reasons. One is it's for profit. They're not local. They're coming up from Massachusetts to use the fields, and they're going to claim a field for 12 hours every Sunday. And once again, we don't know what they have for insurance. We don't know where the organization is and all the requirements that we have set in place. I think this is another group that's simply looking for field space because they're not able to obtain it.
Yeah, this is the form. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, we're just going to have a conflict with, I mean, we can't give up an entire field for an entire day every Sunday.
yeah. I mean, do we have to vote on this? Do we have to make a motion to not approve, or is?
Well, if we want to give her an answer, yeah, we'd need to vote on it. Yeah, I'll be on the forefront just to let you know that my daughter is part of that organization. I found out after the fact. Well, she plays in her tournaments from time to time, so I will be abstaining from it. But it is legit. But it is a for-profit organization. They run tournaments, and it's mostly Southern New Hampshire residents, but there are people from Mass. They've had a larger influx of Massachusetts people because of the restrictions in Massachusetts.
Thank you for that disclosure, Andy.
Does anybody know? Not that it. I mean, does anybody know what the maximum groups size allowed in New Hampshire is at this point? I know Massachusetts, they just shrunk it back to like 50 people, I believe.
As of today, the governor said 100 required. Anything over 100 requires mask.
Gotcha.
So I don't know if there's a minimal, anything over 100 will mask, and how you gonna run soccer or sports wearing a mask?
Yeah, but I mean, 100 people, you're not going to get 100 people at a soccer game for at least participating. They'll ask parents not to be there.
My only other concern with this is we caught a lot of flack when another town wanted to run practices on the basketball courts, and I don't think the town people would appreciate people coming in from other states using the town facilities.
I mean, I think down the line, and again, this would be a conflict that we wouldn't be able to overcome anyway, time-wise. But I think one of the things that we really should look into for next year, I think, and going forward, is if we do have organizations that do want to rent, that doesn't conflict with an in-town event, or tie it up for public, it might not be a bad way to raise revenue for some of our programs.
I would agree with that 100%.
It's like a scholarship or something that we could, or a local group that we could do it for, or some of the local. I mean, we kind of do it already with softball when the districts are coming in. When they have the districts come in, it's usually there's a Litchfield team in there as well, but it's kind of nice being able to, get that snack shack open, right, Colleen? They get a decent amount of money out from the district.
That's very true. The only thing I think, and we can certainly discuss this later, was that even with softball, we didn't want organizations coming at the 12U and 10U level to take away our players.
Right.
Like if you have an ASA program, you can't have a 10U, like you're saying, practicing there, then they can take our players away.
But it's a situation where we really don't have a direct conflict with any of the teams that we support. I think it would be, using this as an example, I think it would be a nice way, as Andy said, to create a little revenue that we could put back into our fields, our buildings, maybe maintenance and painting. And the fields
I
are not
agree
being
with that.
used.
However, it's one of those things where, at some point, if we're going to do that, we need to establish a rule across the board.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I know for years, softball, some of the older teams were practicing, teams that weren't in direct conflict with Litchfield, but that whatever sort of donation they were giving never was getting back. We never realized any of it. It wasn't seen by Rec Commission. So the field was being rented or used, and then funds were being applied, but who was applying the funds? And
right. Well, yeah. I mean, I can speak to softball. That's the field maintenance and the snack shack, but we don't have to go there.
But at some point, we would need to figure out how to control that better, because, this volleyball, say, okay, they're going to go use. If we say sure and give them a field, how is that going to do? Where does that money go? Does it go to the main user of the field? Does it come to us as a rec commission, and then we can use it to, put extra money into that field to maintain it better, or give it to an organization so they can use it? The money shouldn't be going directly to other organizations. If someone is using a field under our domain, it shouldn't be going through another organization to use a field. That request should be coming through us, and if there are funds, because it's a for-profit, they should be coming back to us. And then we can then the Rec Commission can distribute that out. Hey, if we have older softball teams using it, the money comes to us. And then if softball is maintaining it like they always have, we say, okay, we got extra money from them. Here's extra money for you guys directly, because we know you maintain the fields and everything. It's not the money goes there, and then, it's round numbers, $500 is given. It takes $300 to do the extra maintenance of the field, and then $200 gets rerouted somewhere else.
Right. I completely agree. We discussed this before, and the fact of the matter is, back then when we discussed it, it was like, okay, we didn't. And this is when John was with us. We didn't have who could manage it, and this comes just down to that: who's managing the funds, how are we charging the field usage. But again, we don't want to tie up this request right now with something we'll discuss in the future. So this request, we're going, it doesn't require a vote, right, Andy? This is just a...
No, it does. So wait a minute. I'll make a motion on, allowing volleyball to rent space at one of the fields from, in accordance to their request, was it 9 to 5? We can't vote unless we have a motion. We can't vote if we don't have a second. So,
I second.
All right. So We have a motion and a second, and that was from Andy, the second. So a motion from Mike and a second from Andy Ruggles. So we'll open it up for discussion. So a motion doesn't always have to be pro. We can make a motion to deny a request as well.
Okay.
So right now we're talking about a motion of approving their request for the use of a field on Sundays. It's actually 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. is what they're requesting for upwards of 100 people.
Now, Mike mentioned in his motion to rent. Did it say anywhere in that request to rent it?
Yes, they're looking to rent it.
Oh, okay. I didn't say. Okay, I can't. When did this request come in? I can't find it in my email. We have the
August
date?
5th.
August
Is that
5th.
the
Thank
one
you.
Susan signed?
Oh, Susan. Okay, I was looking for the guy. Okay, there we go. All right.
Yeah, just say for my thing on this, I think, for me, it doesn't disqualify them that they're for-profit or that they're largely out of town. We've certainly approved those in the past for for-profit organizations to use fields and for organizations that are largely out of town, as long as they have some Litchfield connection. So those, I think, are still okay. I think the large number of attendees is a concern in the current environment. It's really the 12 hours of field usage, I think, is the biggest problem. I'll be voting against it. But if it was modified and smaller, I think I'd have a different position because I think it's still within our guidelines, just further down on the hierarchy of the rank of what we'd approve.
And they're looking, just to clarify, they're looking for 8:30. They're also looking for September 5th, September 6th, September 12th, September 13th, the 19th, 20th, and 26th. So it's all in pretty much all of September, Saturday and Sunday.
Right.
Now, it doesn't say that it's 80 to 100 people at one time. So if they're talking about running from 6 a.m. through
It's
6
80
p.m.,
It's 80 to 100 people at one time.
it is. Okay. All right.
Let's put it this way: if it was a smaller request, maybe I'd say we could further look at it. We don't have a real idea of if we were renting it, what we charge. We haven't come up with anything like that. But I agree with Peter. Like, we're talking in this climate, putting that many people on a field in town, and they want 2 days a weekend for the entire month. So the request all day, the request is just too big, and it's probably against what we should be doing as in trying to slow release the fields, slow release the facilities. We're going to tie up somewhere that's complete to an organization that's a large majority is not in-town residents. So I just don't see how it's viable.
Any other discussion?
I agree with Mike.
Yeah, I mean, my only input is just, it's a lot of time. But we have other, we have soccer. Soccer is going to be playing this fall, on Sundays and Saturdays, hopefully. And I think that's just going to be too much of a conflict to be all day.
All right. Any other comments or discussion? All right, so I'll do a roll call vote. So this vote is for approving the use of the fields for the Woodtown volleyball. You guys moved in order. So I'll start with Andy Ruggles.
No.
Chris Burns.
No.
Colleen?
No.
Peter?
No.
Mike?
No.
Steve?
No.
Stephen Weber?
No.
And I will abstain. So the motion fails 0-6-1. All right. So actually, we won't need to, we'll just let her know that it did not pass. We don't have to vote nay. We don't have to do another vote.
Now, Andy, on that topic, I thought we were going to have someone, Mr. Ruggles, I think we picked this month, to respond to these kind of inquiries with a single voice. Do you want him to follow up on that, or is that something?
Yeah, do you mind doing that, Mr. Ruggles?
No, I was planning. I was going to mention that. I'll follow up with the guiding eye lady as well, and just let her know we're not going to make any decisions until we hear what's going to happen with Talent Hall moving forward. And I will also follow up with the volleyball people and just let them know that it's definitely not a no forever, but I'll just let her know the details of our conversations here.
Sounds good. All right, are there any other facility or field requests? All right, so moving on to new business, the 2021 budget. So I sort of took the liberty because I didn't look like too much was done. I don't know if some of you guys have looked at it, but I am going to share.
So Andy, I did work with Troy and Karen, and I did get us numbers for electricity, propane, trash, and porta potties.
Okay, great. So this is what I put together, and you guys all have this. I shared this with you guys a while back. So the custodian, I just, again, put in the 5 hours a week. That may need to go up or down depending on what we have to do for cleaning. The electricity, that's off of the 2019 actual. It's been pretty consistent. Well, it's been consistently going up by about $500 a year, which is pretty much on par with Eversource's increases in rates.
So based on the estimates that we looked across the whole town, we had recreation slated for 60, let me see. Right now, the actual run rate from June to June is about 67, 65. So the recommendation that I had working with Town Hall, if I can get back a screen here.
Yeah, but I mean, we haven't used it since March.
Correct. So that was up to June was the dollar value that was run. So that's the actual bills that came in. So we were thinking of plugging in $6,800, which is an increase.
Nobody's been in. So March, April, May, and June. So for 4 months, we didn't have anybody in there.
Yep.
So that's why we haven't been using any electricity.
Correct. So if we look at it, the actual expense for electricity in 2019 was $7,527.
Right.
The actual expense of 2018 was $6,885. Based off of what our projections are, the way electricity is going, we're looking at $6,800 for 2021.
So you expect 2021 to be less than 2019?
That's the speculation based off of the run rate that Troy is getting with the ongoing price of electricity right now.
We also used a lot of electricity and talent because of the heating system. Isn't that electric baseboard in the bathrooms?
It is, and that was on at all times.
Yeah, so that probably jumped us up a bit.
All right, so 6,800.
Yes.
All right, so propane. This was. Let's see. So I went was 45. So, I mean, last year obviously was insane. We spent almost 6,500. So I actually looked at the 2018, which was about 4,400. And again, it's really tough to get a hold on propane because we did have in both 2016, 2017, we had a period of about 3 or 4 weeks in the middle of the winter that we did not have heat or adequate heat. So we weren't using any propane. That's why I didn't, I mean, obviously the 60 something hundred that but the 6,500 we used last year is hopefully not going to be anywhere near that this year. So I used the 4,500 from 2018. So it's actually 2018 actual.
Yeah, so the history that we looked at trying to go back in the budget, we went all the way back to 2017. In 2017, we used 2,900. 2018, we used 3,127. And in 2019, we used 4,078 gallons. So based on that, we looked at it being 3,500 gallons at $1.47 per gallon, which would give us a proposed for 51.45.
Okay. And again, water, I used the 2019 actual. I think water was pretty consistent. You had 840, 713, 1,048, 1,074. And again, these 2 years, 2016, 2017, we lost the hall for about 2 or 3 weeks each of those winters. The last 2 years, we did not. So that should be, that's pretty spot on, I would imagine.
Yeah, so Troy actually looked at that one too, trying to help us out. And based on a 2-year average, he came up with, I think it was 1,061.
All right, I'll give you that $13.
I didn't see yours. I'm on a different screen right now.
Oh, okay. I had 1,074. So, building repairs and maintenance. Again, that one's sort of been all over the place. If you look at, we had spent $3,100 in 2016, $3,100 in 2017, $600 in 2018, and then $11,500. And some of that was we actually had to move some of the expenses from 2018 to 2019 because we had actually, I don't know why we did that. Maybe we just didn't fix anything. Obviously, we had a lot of expenses in 2019. So that's septic, heating. We were looking to do the exterior painting and staircase this year. Obviously, that didn't happen with the COVID, so that would probably be nice to do next year. And I think we can do that with the $3,500.
So on this one, I did want to circle back to our earlier discussions before town meeting around, we kind of floated the idea of what would the town be interested in looking at a replacement to talent in the long run. And I think it's a pretty strong, voice from the town. They did not want to go down that road. So I'm more on the page of, all right, we need to start making investments into building repair of talent now and kind of keep it lumping together for a while, which I think we need to put more into this line to do more maybe proactive repairs to kind of keep it going, because I think that's where the town is based on that referendum.
Well, I mean, I think wanted to justify that with the budget committee and with the selectmen, which is fine. I think I agree, but we probably need to come up with some specific things, just not just say, well, we need $10,000 because we're going to improve Town Hall. Maybe we come up with at least some rough estimates of, hey, we need to redo the insulation, or
Just the one that sticks out for me is the back steps in the stairs.
yeah.
They're getting rather unsafe at this point.
So if we can, I mean, even if we don't have a written estimate, at least something that we can, hold to and say this would, maybe Tom Schofield, maybe Steve, maybe you can talk to him and see if he could just give us an idea of what it would cost to get that thing up, up to speed and safe. And maybe.
So, Andy, does maintenance, would that also include cleaning? So if we're going into 2021 with having to do regular cleaning, is that how does it fall under this line item?
That would be the custodian and probably general supplies for any PPE or cleaning supplies that we need.
Okay.
Building repairs and maintenance are things that are, mechanical stuff, not or physical.
So what about cleaning the floor on a regular basis, where I think last time we cleaned it was, I don't even know how long.
But
I know
do-
we were looking at getting it this year, right? But it never happened.
Right, and we have money from pickleball to actually set aside to do that. I think it's about
Okay.
$500 that we have set aside for that.
Okay.
So I would say let's leave it at 3,100. And Peter, if you or anybody else, if we can come up with some costs for specific items that we think that we need to take care of at talent, we can just we can add those on and justify it. This isn't going to be our actual budget. This is something that goes through the Board of Selectmen or through the Budget Committee, so they can, if we need it, we need to ask for it. And if they give it to us, they give it to us. If they don't, and then eventually the voters, but they don't have a line item, they can't cut. It's just the overall budget. But
Bottom line budget. So Andy, if you look at the 3-year average run rate for building repairs and maintenance, we're at 5114.
right, but
And it goes back to the whole thing. I think what we do is we try to estimate high and then come up with a list of stuff. I agree with Andy Ruggles that all those the back stairs are a perfect one. And the other one is in the bathrooms. Those sinks are always constantly running. No matter how much we repair them, every time I go in there over the winter time, you'll find them running. There's a lot of times that the men's urinal is always going. The valves are stuck. So I think if we looked around, especially with what Peter said, if we're not going to be able to build one based off of the input of the voters, I think we really got to look at the maintenance of that building because it's highly utilized.
yeah. And again, the only reason I came up with the 3,100 instead of the 5,000 is a lot of those building repairs were the heating system. And knock on wood, we really shouldn't have to be having somebody out there repairing it.
Yeah, but Andy, is the reason that there's a lot of it was the heating system because we had to make sure we had the money to not do anything else because we had to fix the heating system? I mean, I think it comes down to the point where there's plenty in there that can be fixed. There's plenty in there that could be done. We just have been pushing it off because there's always the big thing, whatever the biggest thing that fails is we fix, as opposed to being proactive, fixing the steps, fixing the bathrooms. That floor, I know we talked about cleaning the floor, but what about, and I know we can't strip it and varnish it, but what about just varnishing the floor?
Well, again, that's what we had that money set aside for this year. We were going to try and get that done this year.
Right. But that's not just cleaning. Like, I know what pickleball wants it, they want it varnished and then they want it clean too. It's not like they're doing one or the other. They want it varnished and then have someone come in and clean it because they're right. After a while, that floor gets bad. It's no matter how many times you run the dry mop over it, it doesn't pick up everything. It really does need to be cleaned from time to time.
So, anything that we want to add to this, I think instead of just adding a number, we need to come up with a list of this is what we want to do. And this, hey, if we want to do the floors or clean the floors on a weekly basis or whatever, this is what it's going to cost. If we want to replace the sinks, this is what it's going to cost. And when we can put those in, that'll allow the Board of Selectmen and the Budget Committee to say, you know what, you don't need sinks. Or, whatever they want to say. And they can adjust it appropriately instead of us saying, give us $8,000. And
I agree, but I also agree with the ask more and then they can cut rather than going too low. And you'll never get extra money if you're going too low.
Right, but we need to list each. We need to justify those numbers. We just need to put a list of this is what it's going to cost. And again, ask for everything that we need or everything that we want. And again, let them decide.
So our next meeting is the 24th. Before then, can we get some numbers maybe, to do the decking out back?
Yeah, I'll take care of that one. I'll chase that down.
Coming up with a list of things we want, at least at that point, when we do have to talk about the budget on the I think it's the 24th, is when rec will be up. At least we have some backup documentation at that time.
Yep.
So some that we know of, definitely we need to do something with the back deck, remove the stairs, close off the exit from the office in the storage room and make more of a deck or a landing. We talked last year about replacing the lighting with, or adding or replacing the lighting with LED lighting. We just talked about the bathrooms basically needing an overhaul in the hardware. Maybe get something more efficient or automatic. And the flooring. How's the roof on the building? Has that been looked at in the last 10 years? Maybe a roof.
I have no idea.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
It looks like Andy dropped off. Yeah, I'll speak to somebody about the rear decking. I know a close friend of mine that can do it. Although it's probably cheaper to go with Trex than it is pressure treated because you can't get that anywhere. So we might have a beautiful deck out back.
Yeah, PT is hard these days.
And if Andy realizes he fell off.
I'll shoot him a text. His internet went out.
Tell him to walk 2 doors down and he can sit with me.
I think Chris Burns dropped off too. Oh, Colleen dropped. Oh,
Are we losing
Wow.
our internet in New England?
good thing the Bruins are on delay. The other game went to fourth overtime.
All right, Chris is back. Colleen's back.
Sorry about that. Not sure
I've
what
been,
happened.
Andy dropped as well.
I've been here.
Oh, you've been there? Okay.
Yep.
There's a fly flying around me. I can't get.
I had to reboot my computer to get back in, so I don't know how long he's going to be.
He said he dropped the internet.
Did I miss anything good?
He says he can hear us.
But we can't hear him, so there's a problem there.
Yeah, he's the participants. He's not there anymore.
The one who's typing in the actual, budget.
I blame John for this, just for the record. I'm going to put that in the notes, Peter.
Blaming IT on it.
Whoa. Mine's still up.
Yeah, I'm not at this point. When we have 9 people on and 1 off, I can't really blame the team connected the IT on it.
Could blame Steve because it is, Cisco's WebEx.
Guess who works for Cisco as well, huh, John?
That's right.
And our first thing is tell you to reboot, and we're connected. We're fine.
You and every other IT
Yeah.
person on the planet.
Are you using
Step
Windows?
one. Step one,
Reboot.
power reboot.
Yeah.
Did you try plugging in your Ethernet connection?
Back.
Signs of life.
All right. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
You want me to give you my Wi-Fi password, Andy?
Yeah. All right. So where do we leave off? We were so if we want to come up with a list of things we can add it to that 3,100, I think the 3,100 is just a good baseline to have for, there's going to be things that come up that we cannot prepare for.
So the last thing I mentioned, Andy, before you dropped, I don't know if you heard it, is I went over the hot list. So we got the bathroom overhaul, lighting we mentioned at one point, replacing the decks and the stairs, doing something with the floor to refinish it. But the last one was, how old is that roof? Are we sitting here expecting it to last another 10 years?
The roof actually, knock on wood, is in good shape. It is less than 10 years old.
Okay, perfect.
Or it's been patched in the last 10 years. It's a good memory. It's supposed to be a 25-year life on it. So we still should have, Kevin Lynch would know better, but I believe we still have another good 10 years in it.
All right, so it's not imminent failure at this point in time.
No.
So Andy, going back, just why 3,100?
That was just looking at the trends from before backing out. So building and repairs.
Right, I'm just wondering because in 2015 we budgeted 3,500. Now we didn't spend it, but then the last 4 years, it's been at 4,500. Why all of a sudden I know we want to save money in certain places, but
Because
why would we back off that number?
we have a new heating system. We shouldn't need as much maintenance on that heating system as we've had in the past.
Okay.
That was our number one. And again, if we have other things that we need to add on to that are specific one-off items, then I would say definitely let's list them out. Put down what we propose is the cost for it. It's our only building. It's the only practice facility we have.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I think Steve Gannon mentioned maybe some touchless sinks and soaps. I mean, especially with what's going on right now with the COVID, it may be a good idea to have that sort of stuff in there.
Yeah.
So I can get some pricing on that.
I guess I'd also just say that, the 3,100 that we have in there isn't earmarked for anything specific. Like you said, it's put in there for things that are unforeseeable that pop up.
Yes.
I would guess, with the building being old the way it is, I would say more things are going to pop up. And so I'd rather keep the number up high, even if they're not specific, because that's been the experiences that things have popped up. And that's what I'm worried about, in addition to hopefully doing some proactive things as well.
I mean, do we need to separate this into 2 line items then? Like one that is just like a $3,500 in case stuff happens, and then another item that's projects that we feel that are necessary.
Well, why don't we do this? I'm going to move this over a little bit. So what we can do here is, if you want to just list out things that we think we need to do in the amount, then we can just add that. But that's the evidence that we can give along with our budget, saying these are the items that we're looking to do, and this is the approximate cost that it's gonna be. So if we say we need $10,000 or $15,000, without justification, they're just going to bump it back at us saying no. And it's a lot tougher going back again and asking for that. You don't ask for it properly up front.
Now, is there like a price point where we have to break it out? Like if it hits $10,000, for example?
I would say if it's anything, I mean, we don't break out like electricity, water charges, because that's something that's just going to be reoccurring.
Out of your control, essentially.
But I mean, things like this, like if we're looking at equipment purchase, facility improvements, capital outlay, et cetera, we probably want to list those out because, and the other one I wanted to list out with program expenses. Hey, this is what each of these programs is going to cost us, and this is what we need to do. And again, that sort of helps us look and make sure we don't forget anything and make sure we budget everything properly. But it also, the budget committee and the Board of Selectmen can look at it and say, okay, this is what this money is going towards. It's not just, hey, we want 2,000 because we want 2,000. Because all too often, this, in the past, we've been hit with big expenses in certain things, and because it's a bottom line budget, we'll not spend anything in one line item because we need to overcome a $4,000 overspend in, another line, and then it looks like, well, you don't really need that money. You need to justify why, what that money is going to be for. So on trash container services, Steve, did you have one from Troy that was a run on that? And chemical toilets, you said?
Yeah, so $296 a month is the rate right now. So that would bring us on, this is on the trash services, line 442. That would bring us to $3,552.
Okay.
And then the real big one is chemical toilets. We had a swinging deal with Dave Septic because we had them for so long. We were actually only paying $60 per month for the chemical toilets. Based on the ones that United just delivered and based on COVID and the CDC recommendations, those are now $151.87 per month.
Wow.
So if we did 12 months at Roy Memorial, that's looking at delivery and pickup is $325. Then Roy Memorial 12 months at $151.87 is $1,823. Then if you look at Corning and Jeff Lane for 7 months and Sawmill and Brickyard for 8 months, you're looking at $4,557. So that total line now would be $6,705.
All right.
Which is basically an increase of $3,185 over 2020.
Stephen, how many did you have for Sawmill?
Sawmill, we only have one at Sawmill.
Okay. What about the tennis courts that now have? Are they going to keep? Is there going to be one that's going to stay at the tennis courts, or is that going to be? Are those going to be eventually removed?
It's whatever we decide.
Okay.
We can decide the quantity and where we want them and the duration based on history. Sawmill and Brickyard were 8 months, and Corning and Jeff Lane were 7 months.
Yeah.
That's a huge increase on that line item for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Much doubling the cost.
I would say with that extra cost, we can't afford to be adding additional toilets all over the place.
No, I just didn't know. Again, I don't know where the ones at the tennis courts came from because they've never ever been there before. You know what I mean? It was always just the one down by the circle. And I didn't know if the new ones came because of COVID, because the tennis courts were open first, or why they were all of a sudden there. But I didn't know if there was the intention of keeping it there.
I know that there's only one there from the town, and that's the one by United. I heard that, I think it was Millennium Running used it, and they brought in some porta potties in the race, and I don't know if they just haven't been picked up yet.
Okay.
Because I think at one couple of years ago, there were actually 3 of them down there.
Yeah. All right. So public notices and ads. Basically, that 150 will give us the one RFP on an annual basis. And I don't think there's any other needs for us to put notices and ads out anywhere. General supplies. Again, I think that's something that we need to look at for PPE for cleaning supplies, because we are going to need an additional amount of cleaning supplies for town hall.
Andy, do you mind sharing your screen again? I don't see it anymore.
I don't know. This might have been what caused Andy to break last time.
Bandwidth overload.
I think it's that Cisco company.
Oh, it's definitely that Cisco company, but you know.
So this is something I think that we need to come up with. I had no clue where to start with it, so I think this is something that we need to look at in the next couple of weeks.
Andy, what usually falls under that? Like, are you talking like,
This is all
so
the
you said the cleaning stuff and
toilet paper, paper towels, cleaning supplies, mop heads, mop buckets, anything that's janitorial supplies, basically.
That's what you mean. Under the old, it also says like snow shovels, ice melt.
Yep, there's that too. I forgot about ice melt, sand.
Though, is the highway department handling that for us again, or?
We can get the sand from them, but we usually get ice melt. We'd have to purchase that ourselves. We usually get
Right.
that through True Value.
Okay.
So if somebody, I don't know.
Wendy, like honestly, like it's one of those things. Do we have any idea, like what sort of regulations are we going to be following to clean? And like it's an entire unknown at this point, which is a problem.
Yeah, I don't know.
see, I would almost be inclined to carry like a $1,000 line item there and say, I mean, I would hope that we could get all of our cleaning supplies and that we would need for $1,000.
Well, that's the thing. We've been carrying $1,000 line. We carried in 19 last year we carried a $900 line item for the budget. I don't know what the actual. I'm trying to see the actual. It doesn't. I mean, we didn't spend anything on it in 2019.
Right. Actually, nothing hit. We spent $190 in 2018. I know we got supplies, so I don't know why we have a zero line on those in 2016, 2017, and 2019. My guess is it hit another line item somewhere.
I know for ice melt's free. We can go down to the shed and get that. I mean, we've done that in the past.
Well, that's the sand, not the rock. Or we don't want to use rock salt on the deck. We want to use ice melt because that'll rot that stuff away.
Gotcha.
And then also the cement out front, it'll eat that away. All right. field maintenance, I just put in the 56,000. This is going to have to obviously change based off of what our RFP comes back at. Like once we have a contract, we can adjust this. And then the next line, facility improvements, capital outlay. The only thing I put in there is playground equipment. I don't know if we have any specific items. Maybe the playground committee has something in mind that they would like to add. I know that we didn't do the handicap swing. And I thought that's what this was the 3,500 for that. And I thought it was something that we really was missing from what we did the last go around.
How about things like adding a second spigot to the building or out front, or one over by the shed, water, so that we could clean some of the facilities. And then we have some other things that would probably fall under equipment repair and maintenance, maybe, I don't know. But like there's outlets that need to be repaired. The water, there's minor things that are, haven't been touched in years that probably need to have some attention done.
And mop sinks added in again.
Yeah, mop sinks.
Yeah, and those are all going to building repairs. We can just sort of
Okay.
even the spigot. The spigot over by the shed would be an issue because we'd have to pull it from the irrigation system, and that created major headaches for us the last time that was set up. Because they had to.
Unless we were to bury a water line all the way from tie into the building somehow.
Well, there's a pump over there for a well for the fields. Problem was the irrigation lines. They were tapping off the irrigation and adjusting the manual control valves, and
Yes.
then not putting them back. So
Yeah.
it may be something that we could talk to somebody about, putting a spigot, prior to the irrigation.
Or maybe we can get some volunteers and drive a point well out there. And the other problem too is if you put a spigot out there, and I think Kevin addressed this. His issue, Kevin Lynch, was if we have something out there, we'd have to make sure we mark it as not potable,
Sure.
because then you're gonna worry about people drinking out of it or using it to do whatever. So again, if we can think of any other facility improvements that we need to put in here. And then we have equipment purchases. We never really purchase much equipment. Most of our stuff is outsourced. So we don't need a lot of equipment on our own. Mileage we never use. Program expenses. What I'd like to do is if we could get to the committees, and I'm going to move this one over too. I'll move it right next to building repairs and maintenance.
We really don't have our previous run rate on this one, huh?
Well, no, but we know what we can budget. I mean, it's nice because we can budget a specific amount. We can say, hey, Christmas in Litchfield, what do you guys need for us? Is it 300? So I'll put this right over here. So these two items, the repairs and the program expenses, what's the fishing derby going to cost us? And I put this in here because I thought, we've tossed around the idea of doing some type of event at the river access. And really, I think the only expense that we would have there is we would need to do some type of busing to get people, because they're going to have to park off site and transport them back and forth.
Yeah, there's some other things people mentioned to me, like maybe have like a movie night where we could project something on one of the facilities and then people sit in the fields, or a concert or a DJ, so people can get together and utilize the fields and social distance and have their space, but still manage to come together as a community.
Well, and a lot of those things. I mean, Christmas in Litchfield too is one of those things that can be a self-funded event too. it's really hard to do an Easter egg hunt. You're not going to charge money to go to an Easter egg hunt, or the fishing derby or the senior barbecue. But we can.
Yeah, well, I think the important thing for those is that give them seed money before they bring in money. Then that is very helpful to them, because a lot of people are just outlaying their own cash, frankly, until they can get reimbursed. And so anything we can do to give them that seed money, I think, would be much appreciated, and certainly encourage these type of things in town.
So I mean, because I think like Christmas in Litchfield has some money set. They have some in the revolving fund, so they're kind of set. But there's nothing really set there for the Easter egg hunt. So I think we need to get that. That's something that they're never going to make money off of. So it's probably something that we would need to fund on an annual basis. I mean, we're not talking a ton of money. I think when Jessica did it was like $300. But if we just if we can add those into these two, and then it'll give us this. And I know Colleen, Colleen's going to try and get a number for us for meeting minutes, so we can put that in there as to what it would cost. I figure we look at usually around 20 to 24 meetings a year, averaging about an hour, maybe say an hour and a half.
So Andy, yeah, it's attending the meeting, but then it's also writing the minutes out, which generally.
Right. I'm just saying that our meetings average about an hour, so that whatever it would cost to not only attend but obviously write the notes as well. I just wanted to, he would probably want to know. I mean, he knows how long our meetings are, but it would be different if we had 3-hour meetings.
To give me one, I'll look up the selectmen budget, because we went over this last night. I believe we pay him $50 per meeting, but I could check the value if you just give me a second.
So I have 15. If I can say it, I'll say it out loud. He got back to me as $15 an hour, Andy. And then
how many? So for like an hour's worth of meeting, how much time does he spend? Would it be 2 hours?
Well, then 2 hours after that, probably attending the meeting and then writing the minutes. So yeah, 2 hours to write the minutes and attending the meeting on average, I guess.
So in other words, whatever we have for meetings, just double it.
So it sounds like what Steve's saying probably. If it's 50, it sounds like it would be about 45 for us if it's 3 hours, right? If it's an hour meeting and then a couple hours to write it, I'm guessing.
I don't know, because if the selectmen meetings are taking how long? 2 hours, 3 hours, and then
they're all over the place.
Right. I'm just trying to be this logically. Like if this is an hour meeting, it takes you 2 hours to write the minutes.
No, that's true. So,
I think if it's an hour meeting, an hour for the minutes, I think that's probably more. Like, I just don't see how you can write down everything you're watching in the hour meeting.
I honestly don't see many meetings that would require more than an hour to write down, especially once he has a template, in place and can just kind of backfill in as he needs to.
Right.
It's actually, for the Board of Selectmen, it's $75 per meeting. And our meetings are much longer. He gets paid for 24 meetings at $75. Just based on other things, somebody else does them for the ZBA, and it's 6 meetings at $150. And for the budget, it's 24 meetings at $150. So, and there's different people that do it for different meetings. So, basically, for Matthew, I know he does ours, and we basically budget $75 per meeting, and that will average out for us, because some of our meetings could be an hour, and some of our meetings could be 3.5, 4 hours.
Well, so why don't we put in $45 a meeting just to have a number? And then if that's not right, Colleen, so looking at 1,080. So that would be, $15 an hour for 3 hours between attending the meeting and writing the minutes. Because our meetings sometimes go more than an hour.
Yep. And the line item's called EX Clerical Support.
EX.
clerical support. And it's numbered as line 344.
344.
Yes.
So
Have we established a base pay that we're going to do? Is it going to be 45 minutes, or should we say $15 an hour for the meeting, $15 an hour for the meeting minutes, minimum of 1 hour of each, and then he could charge accordingly? Can we do that? Can he come back and say that, or we could say the meeting was an hour and a half, so we have to pay him,
well, I think
a little over and above?
what,
I guess that's the other question. How do you just see when you pay him? Do you pay him by? Does he send you an invoice for the hours, or is it just a blanket per meeting? Like I know budgeting's one way, but what's the actual being charged out of it?
I believe he sent us an invoice.
Okay.
So, from a budgeting standpoint, we say on average it's going to be that price per meeting.
Okay. So that solves the actual problem. He's billing per what he actually works. So.
all right. So it looks like these items we still need to come up with. And this is something that we can work on between now and what we submit to the Board of Selectmen. Now, our meeting, unfortunately, our next meeting is the day after the Board of Selectmen meeting is.
I can work with Troy and see if we can push the rec to the next meeting after that.
Okay.
Just to say we need a little more background information and need one more meeting to discuss it.
I mean, we can send what we preliminarily have.
Yep.
And maybe get some feedback at that point, but just tell them that these two line items in particular are going to be, and as well as the field maintenance. These will like
field maintenance and repair.
Andy, what about just regular equipment purchase?
like what?
Well, I don't know. We in the past have budgeted under there, equipment is needed. Are we going to leave that?
We have, if you look at it, I don't believe. We spent $260 one year on some equipment. A lot of that was back when we had Ben, and before Ben, his dad, because they were doing a lot of the maintenance and repairs on the fields and doing things. We don't have anybody to do that right now, so there's no equipment needed. Anything that we do, we outsource. So it's not like we need chainsaws or snowblower. We bought a snowblower, things of that nature. Yeah, unless we're going to buy a machine to clean the floors, which is something that we could look into.
Well, what about so what happens, for example, the wood chips for the playground? Realistically, we shouldn't be replacing them once every 6 years either. We should probably be putting more in every year, correct?
Yep.
I mean, wouldn't that fall under that line item? And just because we kind of ignored that before, and it's something that probably shouldn't ignore going forward. We're going to get to a point where we were last time and have to, put in a big expense. So if we, every year maintain it like we should be maintaining it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we need to replace the tennis nets too. We've talked about replacing one each year to rotate through with those. And I don't think we replaced one this year. So,
Did you get $2,500 approved for equipment purchases this year?
From what I could see for 2020, we had 1,500 approved.
Yeah.
Okay, the one I'm looking at here shows 2,500.
Well, I think we proposed it, and it looks like the budget committee approved 15. At least that's the one I'm looking at, the spreadsheet I have in front of me.
Yeah. So, and again, I think that's something that because we really haven't used it in the last 3 or 4 years, I think that we need to justify it with line items, with just saying, hey, we're going to get playground mulch. We're going to spend $1,000 on playground mulch each year to maintain the levels that we need. We need to get a new net for the tennis courts each year at $250 or whatever the cost is. And then that way we can show them what we're going to spend the money on, what we plan to spend the money on in 2021. So, I mean, I can add that in there too if you want to. So we can look at those 4 areas. So tennis nets, playground mulch.
Yeah, the other one I have here is showing $2,500 approved also.
And I think we were approved for $1,500 in 2019. I think we upped it to $2,500 this year because I think we were going to try and get more mulch in for the playgrounds. All right. So we'll leave it at this and take a look at it. We can finalize and vote on the budget at our next meeting. We should have everything in there except for the field maintenance, which again will change once the contract for the 2021 year has been.
And I'll try to get some numbers around program expenses, Andy.
Okay. All right, so our next item on new business is the field maintenance RFP. Look at this, he's ready to roll. So Andy, if you want to just highlight the major changes.
Yeah, I went through, I updated the dates based on, I think I said October 16th, 2020 for I just used last year's date and kind of pushed it to the same week this year. And then we'll talk about it on the 27th. The first major change I made was on item 6, which was the John Bryant River access. It said, I just added this line here. It says, in cases of extreme drought or excessive rains, mowing schedules may need to be modified to maintain an appropriate grass length. Like this year was really dry, so it probably didn't have to mow it every 2 weeks. I know my lawn at home, I water every day and I'm mowing it every 2 weeks. But in the same case, it could rain every day for 3 weeks and the grass could be 2 feet high. So
Yeah, like last year's summer, we had a lot of rain last summer.
Right. So I just modified it to kind of say, hey, keep it appropriate based on what the weather is doing.
Okay.
The second part of the proposal, I modified some stuff here. I included a spring cleanup because it was included this year, and I just thought it would be a nice thing to have. I also added pest and grub control. I know this year we had a problem with Dara. The grubs had gotten into that field and gotten at the roots really bad, so we incurred additional costs based on that.
Yeah, you mean, not to interrupt, but Sawmill was last year. Sawmill, the previous contractor had to basically, rip up, I'd say, a third of it, and then, oversee it, and we closed it, stayed off it for a while to bring it all back because it was all grub. So it seems to be, moving through the different fields. So I agree with that entirely, where realistically that needs to be at the forefront, because it really starts once it's on the field, it starts taking over, and then you're just spending more money trying to fix it after the fact.
Agreed. I don't know what it is about Litchfield too. The grubs just love the sandy soil here or something because they're everywhere. I don't think I added anything else there.
I have one question. The overseeding line, the entire field, goal area is needed throughout the season. The goal area is specific to like soccer fields. And I don't know if we should take out goal area and just put in worn areas, because, I went down I was walking Sawmill before this. I was looking at Sawmill this morning. There are areas that are still, the fields haven't been lined in a while, but there are severe like patches where there's no grass left over from last year that were never repaired. And and it's mind-boggling because the fields haven't been used, so it was like the perfect time to have those repaired during the spring, so they'd fill in, and they weren't done.
Okay, yeah, I can change that to say worn areas.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's areas on baseball fields like where the fielders generally stand out in the right field.
Exactly.
Made it need a little bit
Maybe
more
say
treatment.
worn/high traffic areas.
Okay. Sorry.
Well, we've all been there before with those.
I can't stand those things. All right, and then in this area here, I added that soil sample results should be given to the Recreation Commission for our records. One of the big problems again this year was that, our current contractor said that, the soil was really deficient in certain nutrients. And I feel like if we get these fertilization records, we have proof that it's been done properly.
Yeah. We also need the records of pesticides. Any chemicals applied, we're supposed to have those on file for 2 years.
Exactly. Yeah. So I just added. Yeah. So I want to make sure that we get that from these people. Whoever takes over or does it. So. But those were the major changes. That was basically it. Not sure if everybody else got to read over the rest of it, but I thought everything else was pretty tight.
Well, the other one that was really important with that, being able to apply pesticides, you have to have the required licenses, and you call that out there as well.
Oh, correct. Yeah. Yeah.
So what are the dates again that we're doing this?
I had put October 16th by noon. That's a Friday.
Yeah, can we change it? I was gonna say, I'm like, can't we make it like the 13th when we're actually meeting, and therefore don't have a special meeting?
Well, we're meeting on the 27th.
Yeah, so the submission has to be in by then.
I'm not the 27th. I'm sorry. October 16th is when it would be due. We'd be meeting the 27th, which is.
But my question is this. So to open them, someone has to be present to open them. We have to be there to open them. We're supposed to open them as public record. Why wouldn't we open them during one of our meetings as opposed to having a random day and time to do it?
Well, so last year I went to town hall and opened them with Troy. And I know after that he scanned them all in and distributed copies to everybody to review on their own. So then we could discuss it at the next meeting and you could mark it up.
I don't believe they have to be open at a public meeting.
And that, no, I'm not saying it has to. What I'm saying is that why don't we line this up with a day we're meeting? Like, why? I mean, unless we want, like, everyone want, like, we're taking it home and all reviewing the bids, which.
Well,
I
that's what
did
we should
last
do.
year. I actually called all references for everybody and checked everything. So that was just my own personal thing that I
No,
wanted.
and that's fine. I'm just trying to figure out the logic of having it on a Friday, a random Friday at some point in the month, as opposed to an actual meeting day or at a meeting when we're all there. But
Well, what I was thinking as far as the date is, I think we did this simply because of when we actually got the RFP together. I would like to see us move that timetable up a month or so if we can, to give us more time to get that money, to get that adjustment to the budget. We were sort of late to the party with the update to our budget last year. We didn't really have an update until November, and I'm sure they would like to have it sooner than later.
So what are you thinking? Bids by September 18th
Yeah, just move it up a month and just.
and review the 29th?
Let me put my calendar here.
actually, our meeting's the 20. It would be the 22nd.
Yeah, so I would say how about have it in by the 8th at 6 p.m. Oh no, actually have it in at 8 by what time does town hall close on Tuesdays? But how about the end of the close of business, the close of
Before EOB.
yeah, on September 8th? That gives us that meeting to open them and distribute them, and then we can vote on them on the 22nd.
So September 8th. I just from experience opening them with Troy, you kind of just open it and you sit there and you read it. That's why it just may be a little awkward at a meeting. You know what I'm saying?
Right. In the past, we've done it that way though, because the other bidders want to come in and they want to see what the bids are.
Okay.
So the only thing that we have to watch out from a timing standpoint is the purchasing policy says we have to give 14 days
14 days for.
from solicitation to get the sealed bids in.
Right.
We have to publicize it in a period of no less than 14 days. We're already at what, August?
We're at 20. We're exactly at 28 days. So
we're gonna have to post it.
No less than 14 days from now.
Right. I don't see why can't we just post it this week?
No, nothing's stopping us. I was just going through the purchasing policy to see what the time was.
I just say get it out there now and give people as much time as we can. We don't want to, if we can give them 21, 28 days, that's even better. Because we'll probably get some more people that are interested in it.
And in the end, we have to take whatever we write and we have to send it to Troy for approval.
Yeah.
So it'd be September 22nd when we review it, or the 29th?
22nd is the fourth Tuesday.
Okay.
And the only thing you need to do to open them, it's the town administrator and the department head shall open all proposals under dual control.
So, so basically, we shouldn't be doing it at our meeting.
Okay, so so what about by end of, sorry about this, Andy. So we can make it the 11th, that Friday by noon, and then we can open it. One of us can meet with Troy and open on September 11th.
And the only requirement we have is we have to have to talk about the results of all the proposals at our public meeting.
Yeah, and we'll make those part of our minutes for on the 22nd, right?
Okay, so this should be right now. I'll read through this again in the morning when I'm a little fresher. This is almost my bedtime. September 11th. So by noon on September 11th, we need the bids. And by the public meeting, 7:30 on September 22nd is when we're going to be awarding it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what's the duration of the contract we're looking at? Is it 1 year again, or are we going to do a 3-year?
I think we should all get down and take a look at the fields and determine. I personally would think we should go for another 1 year. Considering all factors such as in the past, we knew this year we needed grub control. We knew we don't know the chemical levels. We just had all these unknowns. I'd like to see how it improves over 1 year before issuing it for another.
Well, I have a little problem with that just because, like, for instance, this year we have had no rain. So even with irrigation, like my lawn at home is burnt to a crisp still, and I water every day. So I just feel like judging on 1 year may be tough to do, and it's hard to transform something in a year, if it was not done properly in the past.
You know, I mean,
That's just my thought.
We had done 2 years. We had always done 2 years until this past year. Yeah, and supposedly we did this past year because we were splitting it into 2 proposals.
What if we maybe Troy can get involved in this? I mean, we'd like to have a 2 or 3 year contract just because you're giving that person the consistency of going year to year. You don't want them shortcutting stuff because they're trying to get the bid for next year. We want them to have some investment in the fields, but it would be nice to have an out clause every year that's specific, saying, based on the review of the fields at the end of the, maybe on September 1st, we can review the performance of the year to date. So it's like an optional review. I don't know how to word it or how.
I think we can take this and get it to legal and ask them for some verbiage in that case. Also just talking to, like golf course turf managers and so forth, and most of the time, they've all 3-year gigs. First year, you're figuring out, what do you have? The second year, you're making all your changes, and by the third year, you've got it the way you want.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So it's pretty tough for anybody with a 1-year deal to really make drastic changes because they're at the mercy of what the person did before.
Right. But we want that easy. We want that easy out too. If all of a sudden we're like, this grass isn't getting cut on a regular basis.
Oh, I agree, but I was just going back to the length of the contract. I agree that we should get, legal in there and at least say, okay, what is an out clause for us based on performance?
Right. But I think that 3 years is a good timeline. Just because it, like you said, it does take some time to establish what they're doing. So.
I had a question too about getting 2 proposals for one for the mowing, one for the health program. If I remember correctly, current vendor when he was awarded both programs, he was adamant about getting both programs so that he can really take care of it and that the mowing doesn't contaminate the health program if it's 2 separate companies. Are we considering awarding it to both two separate companies depending on what it comes in at, or are we really just looking for one to do both? And if that's the case, would we just want everything all encompassing in one proposal rather than have it broken out?
That's a great point, Chris.
Yeah, and I think it would. I know what we were looking at is possibly having the highway department doing it, but I mean, I could see them doing everything but the actual fields. Because what the current vendor was worried about is particularly crabgrass. You cut the by the bike path and you're cutting all kinds of crabgrass, and then you're using those same blades and the same deck on the fields, and you're spreading all those seeds all over the place. And then you got you know, you got the poor guy that's doing the field maintenance and saying, hey, we got crabgrass growing. You got to get more crabgrass color out there, and then the guys that are cutting it are spreading it. But if we look at, you know, the river access, the smaller stuff around Talent Hall, you know, that's stuff that you don't need big equipment for. I don't know if it would make a big change in the bid, but
That's something I was going to bring up as well. Is they really don't want to contaminate it, and they're also not going to give it the importance. So, is it possible, going back to what we are talking about earlier about budget, is if we purchase a mower and we take some of that stuff out, we take out the river access, we take out the perimeter around Talent Hall, maybe the perimeter around ball fields are not being treated, and let someone manage truly the fields, and we could take ownership of the rest. I don't know what that would do as far as a contract, but it would take. I'd rather the specialist dealing with what he's good at and not worrying about cutting 6 inches of crabgrass in front of Talent Hall just to make it look nice. I'd rather making sure that the fields are up to snuff.
right. But I think that's something that we could budget out to the highway department simply because it's not just buying the mower. It's getting the person to do it. It's also getting a trailer and a vehicle
Right.
to tow it from.
It's certainly nothing that we're going to be able to throw in this year, but it might be something going forward. Instead of having the two proposals as splitting it out, maybe we take ownership of some of it and have it.
I would love to see the highway department take care of river access, because I mean, they're already out there mowing the edges of the road. What would it take to go, you know, up and down? What do we do, about 8 feet on each side of it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I still wonder half the time. I don't think, like, the area around Sawmill and in front of the tennis courts and everything, what that mowing is done haphazardly. I don't know, and I don't think it doesn't seem like the landscape is the one doing it. Now, mind you, I haven't really checked as much this spring, but last year that was handled by the highway department, because I know the previous contractor wouldn't do it. He came in and basically said, I'm not handling this area because it would require a different lawnmower, different blades, different everything. He didn't want to ruin his lawn. He didn't want to ruin any of his mowers doing those areas because they're uneven, they're rocky, they're weeds, all the above.
Yeah.
So are we sure the highway department isn't already doing the areas around Sawmill?
I'll ask the question tomorrow.
Yeah, especially up by the tennis courts.
I'll ask, because it probably is them when they're doing, you know, the bike path
Right.
and Elbow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll ask the road agent tomorrow.
Yeah, and they went down and they did the very ends of Brickyard, not last year. Yeah, last year, the beginning of last year.
Yeah, that was that was the sides and everything. Yeah,
Yeah,
the junk.
all
It
that
was
brush.
junk. Yeah.
Shoot everybody a note tomorrow after I talk to Kevin.
All right.
Guys, I got to drop.
Okay.
So I'm sorry. I have stuff I have to work on. Sorry. Bye, guys.
Right.
Hi.
All right. So I think we're at old.
She just wanted to see the Bruins game. Oh, I mean,
Are they still?
I don't know.
Any other business? I know we're running longer than we normally have, but
By like an hour and a half.
yeah.
No, so with that, do we have to make a motion to accept the changes that Andy made? Is that
I
required
don't
for
think.
documents?
Well, I think we need to get it through legal first, right? And Troy.
So, are we going to have a special meeting to approve it? Because we're up against the time frame now based on the previous change.
We would have to either way, even if we approve something now and they make adjustments, we're going to have to either approve it pending, you know, accepting any changes that they want, which is basically giving them control over it. But
That means that would be the 28th. So the earliest we could put it out would be the 29th. So we may have to just tweak the dates inside of it again.
I don't recall us voting on the RFP draft last time. It's certainly the vote of, you know, when we get to reviewing, we need the votes, but I just remember going through working drafts last time.
yeah.
Peter's voice sounds like he could work in radio.
So we'll probably have to tweak those dates and just make sure. I mean, maybe we'll push it back. We'll have to push it back 2 weeks. But I would say at this point we need to get it to Troy and get it to legal and have them look at, put their 2 cents in, and then we need to have a final vote on it at our next meeting. That's unless anybody feels differently.
I think it's the path we need to do, so we might as well change the dates now so we have it right, so when it comes back.
All right. Because Andy really likes changing the dates on that. All
His
right.
cool word skill.
So let's assume that we can put it out on the 25th. Well,
26.
well, let's assume how about we assume we can get it out on the 28th by the end of that week? Because it will take some time to get it posted and actually in a paper. So that means that we could still do the 11th. That's 14 days.
Yep, that is 14. It's exactly 14.
We could do the 15th. Nice middle of the month, 15th. You have an extra weekend in there. It gives people a chance. And we still have a week before our meeting. So
Yeah, that still gives us a week to make reference calls and review them. Yeah, so just change that September 11th to September 15th. And then everything else should still be the same. And Andy, if you wouldn't mind sending that to Troy and maybe copy Steve Weber. And Steve, if you can, I don't know how to contact legal, maybe either you or Troy can send it to legal too.
I'll call Troy in the morning, let him know what we want, and together we'll send a note over to legal.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any other business?
Okay, that change is made.
Thank you, sir.
Steve, you're gonna send that over to Troy, or do you want me to, or what?
If you can
Why
send
don't you send- Yeah, send it to Troy and CC me,
Okay.
please.
all right, if we have no other business, I'll hear a motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
And motion by Mike to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, second. Chris got it by a hair. We don't have to do a roll call on this one, right?
Aye.
All that agree.
As I log off, you can take my name.
Aye.
Aye.
So carries now 6-0-0. So we are done for the evening. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, John and Russ.
Thanks, guys.